Hey, sixth grade, how's it going? Mr. Joseph here. Hopefully, you guys are doing well. Today, we are going to start our investigation, which I think you should be pretty excited about. Remember that the topic that we're going to be using is spatial reasoning. Okay, this investigation is a combination of what you've already been learning in a couple of different units. For example, Book 6A, Prime, Solid Shapes, Unit 4, is one of the topics that you've been learning about. And then Book 6B, Circles, Unit 8, is another unit that you've been using. Okay? Mr. Joseph has presented a whole bunch of different resources that you have been able to look at and investigate to understand these topics more. You did a pretest. You also looked at 3D shapes in different ways. We read a book. We also did a solid shape exercise. You took some practice quizzes. You looked at other activities. You even looked at an essay to look at different vocabulary. Okay, there's lots of different activities that you've looked at to understand this topic a little bit more. Also, last time, if you watched the video, you were able to dive into some of those topics and really truly investigate what they meant, okay? We looked at symmetry. We also looked at different two-dimensional shapes and how the characteristics are very similar. You also looked at different ways that you can understand symmetry, translational, reflectional, rotational. Those are all different topics that we were looking at last time. Okay. We also looked at three-dimensional shapes and how they relate to two-dimensional shapes, as well as area and perimeter, which is not anything new. Actually, right now in fourth grade, I am teaching that concept. And in fifth grade, for example, this is exactly what fifth grade's doing. They're understanding, different characteristics of three-sided and four-sided shapes, which is exactly what you did last year, right? So finding the angle measurements and the line measurements and things like that. So this is not anything of, different than what you're used to. You also were looking at perimeter and area, as well as the area of circles, okay? So boys and girls, this is nothing new, but what I want to get you to understand is there's tons of different topics that you've learned about over the years, okay? You can see a couple of the visual representations of those topics that we've looked at. You also had an opportunity to do different exercises. For example, this one is one that I linked into the resource from last time, looking at different pyramids and prisms, okay? And the areas of those, as well as just, volume, things like that. So all of these exercises, boys and girls, are going to prepare you in order to do your investigation, okay? This investigation is one that I want you to think about. Think about all these topics that we've talked about, congruent lines and angles, how to make a 3D shape. Think about the videos that we watched in the beginning of the unit, okay? And what I'm going to have you do, boys and girls, is I'm going to have you make your own investigation, okay? Inside of the presentation for today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you a link. Okay, so let me actually put this a little bit bigger on the screen. Teacher Julia is going to share with you a link for you to get into what's called a Jamboard. Okay, so the first direction that you're going to need to do is on the screen. It says, look through the topic choices. I just said a whole bunch of them, right? Whether it's area of a 2D shape, or area of a 3D shape, or understanding vocabulary of this unit, or maybe it's looking at angle measurements. Maybe it's looking at creating a 3D shape out of a net. Maybe it's looking at symmetry. Maybe it's looking at the area of a circle. Maybe it's taking an investigation and understanding more about pie graphs. Okay, all of that has to do with spatial reasoning. Okay, so first step is to pick your topic. Group 6A is going to have this link right here. So we will send this link to you, and the last letter is actually covered up on purpose because I don't want you to start early. Okay, I want you to start when Teacher Julia gives you a chance to start. Okay, so the first step, choose your topic. Second step, click on the link to get to the Jamboard. The second step is to create a slide on the Jamboard to show that you understand the topic. And then the third step is you're going to present this topic to the rest of the class on October 19th. So you're going to have approximately a week. Okay, it's going to be the week of October 19th. So there's only 3 steps, all right? So what does that mean? I'm going to show you guys the Jamboard, what that actually looks like, okay? 6th grade A is right here. If I shared this link with you right here, this is what it's going to look like, okay? Each student is going to have their own slide. You can see your names are on the screen. This is 6th grade A. All the names are on the screen, and just because each student has their own slide doesn't mean you cannot work together. You can actually work with a partner if you want to, okay? So 6th grade A has 20 slides and 20 students, and then 6th grade B, since there's more students, I had to double up on a couple of the slides. So for example, if we look at this one, Dulce and Iara are on the same slide, but let's just say Iara wants to work with another student. Maybe Iara decides to work with Daniela. That's fine, okay? We can do that. Maybe she wants to work with Dulce. That's fine. They can work on the same slide if they want to. So we can actually move these things around, right? These are called post-it notes. We can get a post-it note by clicking on this or sticky note, and you can just write something like this, okay? And then it will show up on the screen, all right? If you want to delete it, you just click this and delete it. You can also create a text box. So you can say, my topic is, let's go, area of a triangle. Okay, and you can put that text box on the top of your slide, all right? You can also add text if you want to. You can say, you can draw a triangle on here. You can import a picture if you want to. Okay, this is your personal slide. You can add different shapes if you want to. There's a whole bunch of different ways that you can personalize these Jamboards, okay? Every student is going to have their own slide, unless, of course, you decide to work with a partner, okay? Let's go back to the directions, just so you can understand what to do. You will be shared this link, okay? And you'll be able to work with a partner if you want to. It's not necessary. You can work by yourself. You should design the slide in English based on all the topics that we've been talking about, right? Any topic that you found on Brain Pop you can use, anything on 2-dimensional shapes, 3-dimensional shapes, symmetry. You can take a look at any one of those topics that we have already looked at, okay? And what you're going to do, boys and girls, is you're going to create a slide in Jamboard, okay, that you're going to present in English during the week of October 19th, okay? Remember, this topic is your choice. You can choose whatever topic you want, but please do not repeat topics. So if I see that, for example, Amanda is doing 2-dimensional shapes specific to 4-sided shapes, okay, then, for example, if I'm Andres, maybe I want to do 3-sided shapes instead. Okay, so make sure you guys understand that you shouldn't double up on a topic. And if you're doubling up on a topic, I want you to work together. Okay? These topics need to be related to your prime book. So for example, in book 6A, it's solid shapes, unit 4. I think it starts on page 69. If you're doing another topic in book 6B, it's unit 8, circles, and I think it starts on page 72. Okay, anything that has to do with spatial reasoning, all right? Like visual, 3-dimensional, 2-dimensional shapes. Okay, that's the investigation. That's what you're going to be working on, all right? So take a look at these directions. These directions are very, very important to understand what you're supposed to be doing. Now, when we look at the Jamboard, I want to make sure that you understand something. This can be edited by anybody in the class. So I do not want you to go to someone's slide and delete things from their slide. Okay, so make sure that you are being respectful, all right? Mr. Joseph can see everything that you are doing. I can actually see the history of the Jamboard. So if you're doing something inappropriate, I'm going to be able to see it, all right? Once again, 6th grade A has one link, and 6th grade B is going to have a different link. Now remember, that last character is hidden, so I will send you the link so you can get started on this. And you're going to be presenting this investigation on October 19th, okay? I want you to remember some things. Now, if you're trying to look for your topic, I want you to go back to the pretest link that you guys were working on before and pick from one of those topics that we already looked at from before. Remember, you are going to be the one that's going to present this information to your classmates. So you can talk about symmetry. You can talk about what is a polyhedron? What are some examples? You can talk about nets. Give some examples of nets. Or maybe you want to talk about three-dimensional shapes, such as prisms or pyramids. Either one, they're both three-dimensional shapes. You can talk about faces. How many faces are on a certain shape, for example? You can talk about edges. One student can talk about edges, another student can talk about faces. It's up to you. You can also talk about, for example, similarities between shapes. Or maybe you want to talk about differences. Maybe you want to talk about a three-dimensional shape and what objects you might see from a different angle. Okay, we can talk about angles. You can also talk about side measurement, right? Similarities and differences among that. You can talk about congruency. That's an awesome topic, congruency. You can talk about what is not congruent. You can talk about perimeter. You can talk about area. You can talk about adding fractions to find the perimeter. Okay, there's a whole bunch of different topics you can talk about. Say, for example, you really understand right triangles. You can talk about that. Maybe you want to talk about extending a triangle to make a right triangle to understand the area of a triangle. That's fine too. Maybe you wanted to talk about more complicated areas. For example, an area like this might be kind of difficult and interesting to explain. Maybe you want to talk about area within a shape. Okay, this is even more complex, all right? So make sure you look at all these different topics. You can talk about area of a circle. You can talk about volume. You can talk about volume of a prism. Or you can talk about coordinates, all right? A couple of students had sent me some messages about this, coordinate planes, right? It's a really interesting topic. And that is the end of the list, okay? There are tons of topics, boys and girls, that I want you to try to look at, okay? So if you have any questions whatsoever, I really want you to ask, but please take a look at those topics first. Talk to your classmates, see who you want to work with. Maybe you want to work alone, that's fine. And get started on these links once Teacher Julia sends you the link, okay? So thank you very much for hearing the directions. Hopefully you understand what you're going to be doing, and we will talk to you soon. I can't wait to see these investigations. I know they're going to be turning out really, really well.